Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Satisfaction, the second season premiered last month, and it airs every Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern on USA. And one of the stars of that program, Australia's finest, Matt Passmore, here on the Rich Eisen Show. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, mate.
So this show, it's a fascinating television program because it is essentially about you in a marriage where your wife cheats on you with a male escort, and then you decide to do what?
Well, yeah, I guess what I thought was charming to begin with was that he doesn't go home and call her a bunch of names and just blow everything out of the water. He starts to ask why. And he chases down the escort and accidentally gets the guy's phone. And then the phone rings and he kind of falls down the rabbit hole. So he actually starts to ask why. He starts going on these dates. And, you know, like, it's almost like, you know, before we get to the hanky-panky, why do you want to do this? So it's a little bit, he goes into it a little bit with that, what do women want?
Right.
Like, how did we get into this situation? But of course, as things progress, he's falling further and further down that rabbit hole.
So he becomes a male escort to save his marriage.
That's the weird premise of it. So it is, when I first went in and had a talk with the producers, Sean Jablonski, he kind of went, you know, it's a love story. And I went, oh, okay. He said, no, it's like a postmodern love story. These two people love each other, but it's also a comment on society. When you're trying to be all things to all people, you're trying to be a provider and a mother and a father, and, you know, and then what happens when you have the American dream, but you're just not happy, you're not satisfied. And then, of course, you find someone, your partner cheating, and then what do? You either blow it out of the water and start again, or try and figure out a way possibly back to each other and possibly back to yourself.
Now, is it true that you got engaged during season one of shooting this? So, because I know, like, sometimes I'm sitting there with my wife and she watches The Affair on Showtime, and then the episode's over, and then she's staring a hole through me, and I'm like, honey, I'm just sitting here watching a TV show. So, what was that like for you in your personal life while you're playing this guy?
On one stage, you know, you got the rose-colored glasses on, you're heading towards marriage, and that's exciting. And then on the other stage, you're, you know, kind of experiencing the things that these people are going through after 20 years of marriage, and trying not to be jaded by that. But I did find the first time I got back to LA after filming the series from Atlanta, we hadn't seen each other for quite a while. And it was that night, and my fiance kind of went, "Oh, Satisfaction's on tonight. Let's watch that." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool. We can do that." I mean, I know what happens, so I'm not going to be surprised. And the first 5 minutes, it was kind of having this passive-aggressive kind of fight. When we're not fighting, yes, we're fighting. And then the food that we ordered came, and we just switched it off for a little bit. We went and had the exact same passive-aggressive fight over Chinese food. And then pretty much sat back down on the couch and went, "Hey, you watch it in this room, I'll watch it in that room, and I think we'll keep it that way."
So you can't watch the show together?
We decided not to. We decided just to keep that can of worms nicely screwed on.
So to save the marriage, you separate, as opposed to the actual show, where to save the marriage, you're doing all sorts of craziness, something that's
it's a separation of sorts.
I see what you're saying. Matt Passmore here on the Rich Eisen Show. So when you say you shot it in Atlanta, is that why you were a Falcons fan? Is that
I realized with sport over here, I had to come up with a system because I didn't grow up here at all. I didn't go to any colleges here. And you come into the country, and all of these sports, I've never been to a venue before, because that's where I think the real experience is.
Sure.
And so I think the first thing I did is I watched something on Sanchez, and people went, "Oh, who do you go for?" And I went, "Oh, I'm a Jets fan." And they said, "Why?" And I went, "I don't know." And then I realized, all right, I got to come up with a system. You know, otherwise you're just a fair weather fan, and no one wants to be a fair weather fan.
Right.
So I decided, no matter what game I go to, the first home game of any sport I've never been to, they're my team. I buy the hat, I buy the shirt, and that's it for life.
Wow, that's a commitment. So
first basketball team a game I went to was down in Miami, and it was the first game of the Heat season.
Okay.
And LeBron had just come on. And then they went through and dominated. Yeah, everyone went, "Oh, you're not a fair weather fan." It's no, this is just coincidence, and I'm their muse. I get that. And then first ice hockey game I went to was the Kings, and it was when they went on that rampage.
Okay. So
And I'm going like, I'm not a fair weather fan.
Right.
And my first NFL game was the Falcons, and then I got cred for a couple of years because then people were like, why are you a Falcons fan?
Because it wasn't the Patriots.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty
and
much.
I went, see, that's the system.
I like it. So are you now a Heat fan minus LeBron and them
Oh
trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
retool?
No,
Okay.
it's all about the team. I like to follow players. Like, you know, I'm loving to. I want to see more of Jared Hayne on, you know, in the 49ers.
Yeah, I thought that would be such a much bigger splash that he would made this year. But I think, he muffed the first punt he had coming his way in the first game, and then that was pretty much a wrap for him.
I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, I grew up living and breathing rugby league, and which is very different to rugby. We have rugby and we have league. They look similar to people that don't know, but they're very different games. Mm-hmm. And he was quite a gun in that game, but to make the transition over to NFL is an extraordinary achievement. It's like going from being an amazing tennis player to becoming a champion ping pong player. Mm-hmm. You know, they may look a little bit similar, but they're just completely different skill sets.
Sure. And one of the things that during one of Jared Hayne's, during that first Monday Night Football game against the Minnesota Vikings, there was a blog, I think, on the Guardian website that was laugh out loud hilarious. Because I know Aussies have a superb sense of humor when covering their sports.
Right.
There's virtually comedy shows, essentially, the sports presenters down there.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I'm correct, right?
Yeah, sometimes when you're actually at the game, when you're in the stadium, you'll have the earpiece in to hear Roy and HG or those guys, because they all got nicknames for everyone.
And it's merciless, right? It's savage,
brilliant.
correct?
Oh, yeah.
Right, so, and they were making fun of the American football game. They were making fun of how it would start and stop, and then there's 50 plays and strategizing, and just seeing the Australian view of the American version of football was laugh out loud hilarious.
Yeah, well, that's been interesting for me as well, because when you don't know really, because we barely even get maybe even the Super Bowl on some random channel in Australia, so you don't really know that much about it. You just make these suppositions from the armpit of the Pacific to America, and you're like, oh, they don't wear pads, they got to wear helmets, they're not hard. Right. And then you get over here and you start to watch the game, and you go, you can't even compare these two games. You know, if a rugby league player threw himself into a tackle or threw himself trying to through the defense like these NFL players, they'd be dead.
Well, a lot of people say that it's because they're not. The reason why the NFL players do that is because they are padded up.
Right,
that if they didn't have a face mask or they're not padded, they wouldn't be hitting us.
Absolutely. So they have completely different skill sets. Right. And I believe I see rugby league as more of like a rolling, violent surf. And I see NFL as muscle chess.
Muscle chess.
Yeah,
I like
very
that.
strategic
muscle
plays.
Chess. I like it.
And they really can't be compared. Every time someone says, like, what do you think's harder, league or thing, I'm not answering the question. You're talking about, apples and pears.
Well, I'm glad I didn't ask that. Matt Passmore of USA's Satisfaction, Fridays, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Before I let you go, we showed a clip of it. You don't have an Australian accent. How come Aussies and Brits or Irish folks do perfect American accents, and when we attempt to sound like an Aussie, it's like an awful Paul Hogan, just a dreadful Paul Hogan?
Here's the thing. Americans are pretty hard on themselves that way.
Okay.
And it's not fair. It's really not, because the American entertainment market truly flooded the world, because, you've got enough population here to make so many shows that really only need the American audience, so they can sell cheaper all over the world.
Okay.
So we grew up with a lot of American shows.
Like what? What'd you grow up with?
I mean, it's like reruns of Gilligan's Island and Flipper and, right through Simon and Simon and Jake and the Fat Man and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you've got that going in your ear. Then we had all the British shows and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And we're Australia, which is like this, and we're looking out at the rest of the world. So more than anything, we kind of had more of a global view, because that's all we had. It wasn't as insular as perhaps other countries.
Okay, so can you hand me that piece of paper, Chris Law?
Sure.
I'd like you to read something in your most American accent.
Wait, really?
And we will use this. Come on, bring it over.
Yeah, I'm just highlighting the portion.
Matt Passmore is going to do your best American accent, and we will keep this from time to time, as you'll be the official voice of this new show. Calling it right here. You are listening to. Hold on a minute. I'm writing this down. You are listening to.
I'm just checking your spelling because there's no spell check here.
I know where you're going with this, right? Come on.
Go ahead. You are listening to, and then read the Rich Eisen, okay. Here we go.
All right. You are listening to the Rich Eisen schooling Brockman on Why He Is Always Wrong show.
That's perfect.
Perfect!
Rich, no, you do it in an Australian.
Oh, no, I don't know if I can do that.
Oh, yeah, come on.
That's terrible. You are listening to the Rich Eisen schooling Brockman on Why He's Always Wrong show, mate. Put another shrimp on the barbie. See, it's just the worst. It's terrible.
But if
I'm embarrassed now.
I wish I had popcorn though. It's entertaining.
Hey, come back, will you please?
Oh, mate, of course.
Pleasure to meet you, Matt.
You too.
Matt Passmore of USA Satisfaction, 10 p.m. Eastern time on USA on Friday night. Oh, you want to ask him the poll question?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
That we had to take down because you were so way off?
Well, not really. Not
Okay.
really. Russell Crowe associates himself as being an Australian. So what is the best Australian import? Russell Crowe, Foster's Beer, Margot Robbie, or AC/DC?
Foster's brewed in Canada.
All right. let's first debunk the Foster's myth. I'm not even sure if it's even sold in Australia anymore because it's known to us as battery acid.
Okay.
But
There you go.
Margot Robbie, not a bad import. Russell Crowe, great actor, but come on, Akadaka. I just went to the concert here at the Bowl the other day. AC/DC is the best import, bar none.
Okay. By the way, I also got a tweet from somebody saying, an Aussie saying that Foster's to put it back in the horse.
Yes. We do call it the horse's piss, yes. Yes.
Well, there goes that sponsor here on the,
Yeah, that's right.
here on the Rich Eisen Schooling Brockman and Why He's Always Wrong show. Thank you for stopping by.
Thanks, mate.
Matt Passmore.
Appreciate it.
Check out Satisfaction on USA, 10 Eastern on Fridays.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.